Welcome to the Business Rebellion, the podcast for founders and leaders who know something about the way business is done doesn't sit right anymore. Not because they're failing, but because the model is broken. This is a space for people who want businesses that work, not just businesses that survive. And today's conversation is for anyone who's ever thought, one day I'll sell this, without really knowing what that actually requires. Because wanting to sell a business and being able to sell a business are two very different things. And this episode is about what buyers really look for, what quietly destroys value, and why sale readiness is something you design, not something you scramble to fix at the end. This is Build It to Sell. My guest today is Jack Lee. Jack transitioned from a 20-year corporate career working with major banks across Asia and Australia into business sales and capital raising in 2013. As a Chinese immigrant from Malaysia, Jack finally focused on supporting Chinese high net worth individuals with investment immigration into Australia before expanding into broader M&A and business brokerage work across the Sydney and wider Australian market. What makes Jack's perspective particularly valuable is that he's not just advising from the sidelines. His own entrepreneurial journey includes launching an online business, a language school, a food export company, 2 IT firms, and even a bar. So he understands business ownership from the inside, not just the transaction side. Jack sees businesses at the moment of truth when founders want out, need out, or are trying to understand what their business is actually worth. Jack, welcome to the Business Rebellion.
Thank you so much, Kerrie, for the introduction. And just to jump on the last part about the bar, it's just a hobby one. It's not a very good investment. So yeah, if you're not there, don't go there. Okay. And
So don't buy
thank you for really. That's right. Yeah. And yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you having me here. So like I say, I'm Jack Lee. I'm the forward business in Australia. For the last 14 years now, I've been working with business owners who are building toward an exit. So whether that's next 5 years or next year. So my job is to help owners understand what buyers actually looking for, remove the weaknesses, and so before they can get exposed and position the business where when it goes to market is on the seller's term, not the buyer's term. So my focus is pretty simple. I'm not in the business of hype, like you say. I'm in the business of deal actually settling. A business sales isn't about like motivational quote type of thing. It's like very traditional, clean number, solid structure, less reliant on the owner, and so that the buyers, when they walk into that, they can trust it. So, and the big idea today is like most owner like thinks that they have a sellable business, but the buyers are looking for something else. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So when you say like build it to sell, it means that build something that works without you, prove its number and transferable system. So
yes,
yeah, that's what we are looking at.
So for those of us who have never really thought about it, so what kind of businesses usually come across your desk thinking they're ready to sell?
Correct, yeah. So we don't work with startups, so we work with mostly a profitable business. And also a lot of owners, they walk in with their numbers in their head. So for example, they traded for years and revenue looks good, they have a team, and then they automatically typically assume that it's ready. So,
yeah.
But then so if you think about it, they are valuing it emotionally, they're thinking about the effort, the sacrifice, the late night, stress, and also plus what's their plan after exit, for example, retirement needs. No. But then buyers are thinking about their risk and sustainability. So they will be asking like, no, can it run without you? Can the profit sustain? No, is the number defensible? So these are the things. So the buyer isn't buying your journey, but is buying your business, but without you. So in the simple term.
Yeah. So at what point do you know when you start having those initial conversations, I'm guessing probably almost immediately, whether a business is actually sellable or not?
Yeah, you're right. So usually it's in the first 15 minutes, the first conversation with the personnel. Because the sellable business is quite simple. You hear that it's a simple and clean story. Not sellable one, it's a lot of explanation. So a lot of things that, for example, the warning signs like the numbers need to be explained. They may or may not reconcile 2 or 3 books, and then and then more importantly, a lot of things that flow through the owners. So that means that no real decision maker other than the owner or founder. And then another one is that founder work extreme hours, though, because they have to. So then, in a way, is that you think about if the owner is the main engine, then the owner becomes the risk. So that's the thing. So ask yourself, so if you disappear for 30 days, what happened to the business now?
Yes,
If it's
I
not,
guess no owner wants to hear that they're a risk, right?
yeah, that's right.
You know, when you're
Yeah.
stuck in the business, you probably think that's a little bit of a hero move doing your 60, 70 hours a week. But when it comes to the other
Yes.
side of that coin, you know, and you're
Yeah.
wanting to sell, it's
It's like
not
ding,
quite the
ding,
hero move.
red lights. That's true. Yeah.
So what's the biggest misconception I guess founders have about what makes a business attractive to buyers?
Yeah, I think what exactly what you say. So buyers think that that's a hero moment. So buyers think that no, how much I put on the effort, how much effort I work 60, 70 hours. That's great thing. But then buyers thinking about not really. I'm not interested in that. So I'm looking at the stable income, lower risk, the operational independent from especially you, and also future continuity. So sometimes like no, exactly same profit but different structure, you get a very different pricing. So if you want a premium, then you got to remove that part from that. Yeah.
You got to remove the founder. It's not that we don't love you
Yeah.
founders, just, you know, if you want to sell, it's the thing we've got to do, right? So
Yeah.
so how often do you see the businesses come to market too early, and what usually forces that kind of timing?
Yeah. It's quite often actually because typically human mentality when it comes to us quite a lot that they say I want to sell yesterday. So that's you can say that it's too early, but actually also too late. Not depend on which area you look at. So typically it's like no, they come through and saying I'm done, I'm burnt out. So my health issue or partnership breakout or some pressure. But then the whole thing is that the business was built with them to survive, not for sales, not to sales.
Yeah.
So when they're coming to me like in rush, then what it means is that everything that you wish for is not yours anymore because that you're working on the buyer's term now. It's not on your term. So that's why. So sale readiness is like something that you build before you actually need that. So it's a time period that you need to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. Founder dependency comes up consistently in conversations about value. Like I've done
Mm,
2 acquisitions myself, and that was one of the key things, you know, that came up every time in both of them
mm.
was that they were very founder dependent. And
Yes.
I mean, the difference between us having done those acquisitions is obviously I've got a very strong operational background, so I know how to remove a
Mm,
founder.
mm.
So for me, it was
Yeah.
okay, but for
Mm.
most, it's not.
Yeah. I told you, yeah. I think because you have the background, so you actually love that you can actually see that you can make it more efficient. But then a lot of buyers they're not in that mood. They're coming into it saying that no, I want to be easier one, so not something that I need to put up fire and things like that. So
No one wants a dumpster fire, that's for sure. So, from a buyer's perspective, how damaging is founder dependency to a business's value? Does it significantly impact it?
absolutely, yeah. This is I think probably the most value killers. If the founders drives everything, then from the buyer perspective, they're thinking, oh, I'm buying a risk. It's not just a business. I'm buying a job actually, a
Yeah,
job, and then with the risk attached. So then, everything just when the and so they would think about the seller, the owner is the strongest operator. And when the strongest operator leave, then the risk going up, and the risk going up, the price going down.
yeah,
Yeah, so then back to your point. So don't make yourself a hero. Make the system or the team a hero, the
yeah,
business a hero. So that's the way you
yeah.
see it.
And just quietly, that means you get your life back a little bit earlier.
Okay.
You know, if you do that early and stop being
Yeah.
the hero and make the team the hero, then you get a little bit of your life
Yeah.
back a bit earlier.
True. That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So, what signals tell a buyer that a business can really run without the owner?
Yeah. And again, to that, so make your team a hero. So the quite obvious one is like second in charge. So who is your second in charge? Have a clear one, not just about is that manager, but that maybe when I step out, then you can step in and things like that. make it clear. So not just a title, make it a role and responsibility clear to the person. The person can make decisions. So that's the second thing. So not all the decisions funnel you back. And then so if you look at some of the things that all the clients, they want to speak to the business owner only, and then the process is in their head. So those are things that you have to remove that. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's not just about the decisions in the business, it's also those client relationships you don't want attached to the founder as well, right?
Correct. Yeah. Client relationship, even as the suppliers as well.
Yeah.
So you think about three areas: your team, client, and supplier. So these are things that you got to remove yourself away.
Yeah. So this is where I'd love to go a little bit deeper because I do really geek out about this stuff. So what are the most common things that quietly reduce the business's value, even when revenue looks good on paper?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you speak to the accountant, you say, "Oh, revenue is good. Then what's your profit margin?" So they will jump straight away going to the profit. So profit margin is just one of them.
The real
So
number.
put that thing as real number. That's right. So if you look at it, so let's say from number perspective, not just the top line, you look at the whole P&L and then the bottom line, and then plus also on the other side, the balance sheet side. Then on top of together, I know some creative one, you have one or two, three books. So just make sure that your financial matching the BASes and tax return. And also, I know a lot of business owners run through their personal expenses, the family perks into their business expenses. Remove that. If you're planning to it, you got to remove that. So then other things like customer concentration and again, the documentation of your process and system. So not just about someone's head. So those are things that you can help a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said an interesting point there, the customer concentration. So like I guess the red flag there is if 50% of your work comes from one customer and that customer relationship is owned by the founder,
Yeah.
that's a really
Yeah.
big red flag, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Actually, on to that point, so I had a client that he does manufacturing. He sells something to Woolly, and then Woolly and Coast, and the Woolly and Coast actually accountable for about 80% of their sales.
Yep.
And also, Woolly and Coast they're not easy to deal with,
Yep.
and then when every 6 months the term might change. So these are the customer concentration risks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So are there invisible issues that the buyers spot immediately but founders almost never see themselves?
I think the founder is have kind of take everything like business as usual, so they used to chaos, but then the buyers don't. So what could be like very normal for the founder and then for the seller when they look at it, this look too risky. So simple one, for example, let's say you sit with the buyer and seller in a meeting, then they will just observe it, just see like how many calls are coming in that you have to take out a call, how many staff that walk into your room and get interruption, and then have a look at your emotion and everything to see how can you sit there 2 hours or 3 hours without interrupted. So these are the small little thing, but it's actually all contribute, all signals to the dependency to the owner.
Yeah.
So if you really want to have a very good smooth sales, you got to do that earlier to remove that part. Yeah.
So if founders only take one thing from this episode, what should they understand about when sale readiness actually begins?
Yeah, it actually begin years before. So today's Rania, one of our business coaches, just my contact business coach, and she said that a client of her looking to sell a business in 18 months. I said that's fantastic. If you give me 18 weeks, that's too short.
Yep.
A lot of people come to us at 18 days kind of thing. So my point is saying that give yourself time. So it takes time. So 1 to 2 years. That's well, we say that's a minimum. And then if you think about the three pillars. So you got to remove your self dependency from the business, and then the numbers need to be no explanation or the least explanation the possible, and then of course to build the system and the team. So those are things that you have to look at.
And sometimes it can take a little bit longer than that, 2 years, right? Especially if the numbers are all muddled, because you need to have clean books for probably at least 2 to 3 years, because a lot of buyers will ask for the
Absolutely,
last 3
yeah,
when they're reviewing, right?
It,
So sometimes it can take
Kerrie,
longer.
correct. Yeah, that's a great point because typically when we do information memorandum, any business sales, we will have 3 years of financial in there. So, and the business valuation, we look at typically at 3 years, either weighted average or average on the profit. So if you have 1 or 2 great year, and then if you have 3 years, it's actually priced differently as well. So 1 year, I would say like it's a really minimum, just to at least you have a actually clean book for that. But then ideally, it will be like 3 years. If you have more, that even better.
Yeah. And one, like you touched on a sale price point there, and I'm just curious, like, how do you normally work out a sale price?
Mm-hmm. It has you have a standard, you have a rule of thumb, you have a guideline. So, but in the very last simplistic term, you look at the risk and return. So everything work off risk and return investment. So business and investment. So between industries, some industry are higher risk, so therefore command a higher return.
Yep.
So for, give simple example. So let's say it's an accounting firm. They are typically accounting firm. Their customers are very sticky. So anyone become a customer, I think average saying that you won't leave a accountant averagely 7 years or more actually.
Yep.
But then if you run a cafe, the risk is much lower. A cafe, you drop 20 cents next door, I probably walk to the next door. So therefore, the customer royalty is not there. So the risk is much higher.
Yep.
So therefore, the calculation of the multiple for accountant is actually higher, means that you have the return is longer. But then for higher risk at cafe, then you are sure, of course, that your return is faster.
Yeah. So with the multiplier, is that based off, net profit, or is it based off the revenue usually?
Correct. Yeah. Good question. So majority you will be coming from the net profit. So typically like retail, manufacturing, wholesaler, majority of them are coming from net profit. But there are certain industry that special case, they will be going up at the revenue. So accounting firm is one of them, financial advisor, mortgage broking, or any type of the recurring revenue thing. So for example, subscription model. So your SaaS product.
Yep.
Subscription model that will go into the revenue base. So again, this is also based on their cost structure. So there's we can go into more technical on that if you have time. But that's how we look at. So certain industry, I'll say about 75% will be based on the net profit. Then some of them based on revenue.
Okay.
So, but again, back to our question before, make sure that your profit is great.
Yes.
Not just revenue.
Yes, that means fix those financials, right?
True.
So how different does a sale look when a business has been intentionally designed to be sellable, even years in advance?
Definitely, it's completely different. So the main difference is you got more buyers, and then you got better buyer because you have time, and then you can choose, and then so less friction. Less friction means that less friction in the price negotiation, the due diligence process, and also even the transition. And some of them like could be over after the settlement. So and then ultimately that means that you have a stronger price. So that's the key thing. So it's completely different.
Have you had experiences in both when you've done the sales before?
Yes, it is. Yeah, some of them are very ready, and the sales is superb easy.
Yep.
So it's the whole transition, the whole due diligence process. You can just close within a couple of weeks. But then for other case, it can go on for. Actually, there was one case that not the best one. So it went on for 10 months. Due diligence, 2 accountants, 2 lawyers, both sides spending about 40 grand on the accountant and actually another 20 grand on the lawyer fee, and it didn't go through. So that's no.
And
Yeah,
and the one that was ready and went through really quickly, how much did that impact its multiplier when you compare?
It does, yeah. It's because it's so clean, so clean and make everything easier. So then when we say, for example, let's say go back to let's say manufacturing. So typically manufacturing business or even a lot of retailer business, the valuation again, this is just a high level range.
Yep.
So it could be somewhere between 1.5 net profit times net profit to larger one could be go up to like 5 times the net profit. So whether it's 1.5 or 5 times, it pretty much depends on a lot of factor, and the number clean number is one of them. So if you have good clean number, everything to explain, you kind of going up to the higher scale. So if you think about if let's say just take the middle number between 2 multiple and 4 multiple, that means that your price is to be the half price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So So it could be half the price, literally, if your
It could be.
stuff
Yeah.
isn't set up.
It,
Like, or even worse.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
there's some that are
Yes.
way worse.
Yeah. And also, if you add owner dependency in there, then the multiple going down
Down
still is
again.
more. Yeah.
So that kind of really ties into the sale readiness is really about how the business is run day to day and not just what happens at the end, right? So beyond
Yeah.
profit,
That's right. Yeah.
what are buyers really paying for when they acquire a business?
Yeah. I, I turn it different way. It's a bit more emotional. It's a bit more outside of business. It typically people are looking at the time and no stress. So they are paying for time. They're paying for no stress. So they will be looking at thinking of what if I step into this business on day one, can I do it without firefighting? Can I do it without the current owner? So that's what the buyers really want.
Yep.
So they were thinking about, okay, especially for the next 6 months, so they want everything to run as business as usual, no hidden skeletons, so no panic and no surprises. And then more importantly as well, just no, they want to make sure that they bought a good engine, just not a problem itself. So they want peace of mind, they want stability, they want predictability, this kind of thing. So basically time and no stress.
Yeah.
That's what
And
they're looking for.
that I'm assuming they will pay a premium for, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So with that, again, everything add up to the premium. Again, let's break down a bit. So they were looking at two things. For the first 6 months, they'll be looking at BAU, make sure that everything can run, and then also at the same time, 6 months later, what will be the opportunity and something that it can grow. So for the first 6 months, you'll be asking something that, okay, will the staff stay, will the client stay, will the margin stay, with everything's working as usual. Then 6 months, they will also start thinking about, so 6 months from now, once I stabilize, what are the clear upside? What are the opportunity that I can do? Those are things that they are thinking about.
Yeah. Because there's no use, obviously, a founder no longer being dependent on the founder, but then all the growth goes down the hill.
That's correct. Yeah. So in a way, the two things that they're thinking is like easy. So easy to run, and then easy to grow. Of course, the easy may not be the right word, but then it's like something that they have in mind. They want to see that they will be able to run it first, and then they will be able to grow it. Then you command a high premium. So typically, because no one buy a business saying that I want to continue just stagnant this way. They will be talking and grow.
No, no one goes, I want to buy a job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't want to buy a job that's 60, 70 hours or something. I don't want to be a hero.
Can you imagine that listed on
Yeah.
Seek? That'd be very
Yes.
funny.
Oh no, wait.
That job ad would be very funny. So
No.
what happens when founders wait until the end, till they need to sell before actually getting it ready? Like what options disappear when that sale readiness isn't in place?
Correct. Yeah. So in a way, like I say, the options shrink. So it means that you have lesser buyer, you have lesser negotiation power. You are just pretty much work on seller's term, and also everything disappear. So and then so that means that buyers gain leverage. The terms become much tougher. So all those things, you are just losing the advantage. So yeah.
So
in a way, it's like no.
all your options just
Yeah.
disappear, right?
Correct. Yeah, options all disappears, and so that's why this urgency. No, I want to sell yesterday is very very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're probably better off like as soon as they can actually start to afford to put their business into some form of under management, because they're the magic words that every buyer loves, right? The sooner that they can afford to do that, even if it's in a smaller fractional type of way, the better they are long term, right?
That's correct. Yeah, and also they have to do that earlier. Like just how you mentioned, 3 years would be the best. So at least 1 or 2 years that they need to prepare for it. So that's the time that you start. I love to say that no, you fire yourself. So make yourself redundant.
Yes.
So that's the way. I mean, of course, gradually. So yeah. So that's if you can remove yourself, fire yourself from the business, and that's the best business to sell.
Yeah. Well, it's probably if you can do that, it's the best redundancy package you'll ever get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
You make yourself redundant. Who would have thought that you had to go? My final redundancy in my entire career was when I made myself redundant and sold my business.
That's right. Fire myself. Right. Issue a letter. You are
Yeah,
fired.
you are fired.
And I got to. Yeah.
So if someone never plans to sell, why is designing a business to be sellable still a smart move?
Because it gives you a peace of mind, a controls and everything there, so you have less stress. So actually, it's not just about you, not just about the owner. It's actually your team will be benefiting, your clients will be benefiting because less stress. And the sellable business is actually just in a way simple term is that they're better business, and their better business means that it's enjoyable. So anyone that in there, they will feel that. So that not just you and everyone else that benefit from it.
Mm. And I guess we should at least give the founders the warning that if they do step into that and get it under management, that they may just enjoy their business again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you start thinking about actually on that. Then we do see some as well. So some that coming through saying that maybe I can think about it.
Yeah.
So selling may not be the first option anymore, which is great. So that's something that they have more time. They can think about it. They have maybe a growth opportunity. Maybe you can put it under really management, and they can still going on a cruise. So why not?
Go and
Yeah.
spend some time with a family, take a month or 6 months off and still
Mm,
have the cash coming in and just enjoying what they've poured their heart and soul into, right? Because so many business
yeah.
owners out there spend 20, 40 years of their life pouring their heart and soul to this business. And, I've seen it a couple of times and it really crushes me, the fact that they get to the end and they don't get sale ready well and truly in advance. And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
they're at retirement age. They desperately need out because of whatever health reasons or whatever it may be. And
Mm-hmm.
it feels like they've just given up everything because they can't get the money they thought they were going to get or that they would
Yeah.
deserve at the end.
Correct. Yeah. And also at the end, at that moment, that is you become very very stressful,
Mm,
and also they like you said they just won't get what they want.
yeah. It really saddens me that part when you see that. Like, I feel really sorry for them and I just kind of want
Mm,
to help them and save them so that they
yeah,
don't get stuck in that.
yeah, and it's true. It's actually not like I know every business has to be different. Every owner will be different, but in fact, it's not that hard. Just a few things, just to start with, remove yourself from the dependency, and then clean up the number. And not just them, they can actually get help, so they don't have to do it themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
So they can get help. Not yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what changes for founders when their business could run without them, even if they choose to stay? Like we've just had a little bit of brief banter on that, but
Hmm.
what do you see when you've seen that through your journeys?
Yeah. What I see is that they in a way that they stop become the key person risk or the main engine. So the engine is tired, right? Just keep
Yeah.
running, running. So once they remove themselves out from there, then they start seeing different things. They are the real business owner now. So they see different things. They got more time and they have more time to sit in the office to think about something else, so they can build better team and everything. So at the same time, so they become not desperate anymore.
Mm,
Then they can make better decision whether to go further or to sell it now, and they are not desperate. And of course, the price and their terms will become favorable to them.
mm. I've seen a lot of that, and I also have noticed that when they get to that point, the amount of clarity that the founders
Mm,
get. And then, of course, because they've got clarity, the amount of opportunity that just decides to land in their lap because they've got the
yeah,
time and the energy to actually see and receive it is just amazing. It's fun to watch. Do you ever
yeah, that's
see
right. Yeah,
that?
so yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's once they get through that part, and all opportunities start to opening up, and also their energy level as well. That's coming out, and then they want to do more thing, and they're looking at different thing and further. So that's fantastic. You can see their eyes start
Yeah.
blinking.
The relief and the
Yeah,
excitement all comes flooding back at once, and then they get really
yeah, right.
confused because they go, "But I thought I was going to sell it." So one other thing I wanted to touch on is now acquisitions can be structured in multiple ways. And what are some of the, there's obviously the standard way, which is, someone pays a big chunk of money and everything's handed over and it's done and dusted. But what are some of the creative ways that you've seen throughout your career?
Yeah, creative and also getting more and more common now because the education, YouTube, or some of the areas of talk about this. So there's some technical term called like buyout, vendor finance. So in the simple way is that sometimes we think, oh, I want to buy a business, then therefore I need to have X some amount of money, and then therefore I buy it and then I transfer 100% of the ownership to me. So therefore now changes a bit now is, for example, the buyout term. It could be the buyers that are coming through, they will buy a percentage of the company. Say typically will be majority stake. So it could be 60% or all the way up to 80% or 90%. Then the leftover could roll on to next 3 years. So the longest one that I have done 3 years. So every year they will potentially buy out a few some percentage more, or it could be roll all the way up to the end date, and then they'll buy out from there. For example, like 60% upfront in the day one, 12 months or 18 months later, they'll buy out another 40%. And that 40% is based on the market value at that point. So therefore, it's called buyout. So that's in the ways that it gives the seller or owner an intense the benefit of, if the price going up at the end or the business doing well, they get a bit better price at the end.
Oh, yes. And then you've got something like, I think you mentioned vendor financing. What's that all about?
Correct. Yeah. So vendor finance is in a way this one. There's a American YouTuber or expert. He sell this a lot. So I seen that on the YouTube and area as well. So vendor finance, typically just think about bank finance or vendor finance. So when I want to buy a house, want to buy a business, I go to the bank. So that's called bank finance. Some of them, they fear to get bank finance. They will turn around to ask vendor saying that, seller, can you finance my purchase? So what I mean, let's say the business you want to sell for $1 million, I will give you again X percentage. I'll give you 50% on money, 500,000 on day one, and then for the next X months or year, I will pay back gradually, and then eventually you fund my 50% of the purchase, and then typically we have some interest in there.
Yep.
Then they will pay out gradually. So that's vendor finance.
Okay. And does that actually work out better for the vendor in some cases?
Vendor finance will be lesser advantage compared to the earn out, because the earn out, if the business going up at the end of that term, the value go up, and then the sellers will get more. But vendor finance is a fixed amount. They will get a fixed return. So let's say based on 10% annual interest rate, so they'll get 10%.
Yeah.
Depend on which side. So from the risk perspective, they will get guaranteed 10%, whether the business going downhill 18 months later.
Yep.
But then the other way is that earn out is like, if the business going up or down, you will be impacted by the price. It could be good, could be bad. So yeah, depend on how you see that. So I think horses for courses.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that there's more than one way to purchase, because I think quite a few people, and it's good to have an open mind if you're going in to sell as well, right? That there's multiple ways, and not all of them are good or bad or
standard.
Yeah, that's right. And there's so many different ways to do anything these days, so it's good to just keep an open mind when it comes to that. So
and also to echo your point, so financially not so much, but then there's a benefit, because if the seller still hold percentage of share or even has some commitment on the vendor finance payment, so from the buyer perspective, they will see that as a great thing, because it means that the sellers will be still there, and then the seller has confidence over the profit or revenue after the settlement. So that's one of the good things is about the confidence of the seller. It's actually helping the seller as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. That's awesome. You don't want them to scamper off and leave you in the mud.
No, that's right. It's not like drop the key and walk.
So what's one thing that founders consistently like overestimate when they're thinking of the value of their business?
One thing, I think that it's still the owner reliance.
Yeah.
I think like that's something that'll be the biggest thing.
So they think that
Um,
that's a good thing, but it's actually not. Is that what you mean?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe on another way is that no, stop thinking the value like a number. So it's thinking about the business. It takes time to build. Even the exit, so it takes time to build. You won't know like how the markets look like. The markets most, let's say, a year or two from now. But the one thing that you can control is the readiness. So 1 or 2 year minimum, 3, 4, 5 year. That's even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, the readiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think, yeah, so many just don't even think that far ahead. Like I know personally myself, a lot of people have asked me if I would ever sell my business, and of course I always say no.
Mm.
And but it doesn't mean I don't make it ready. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a different mindset, I think. Like
Yeah. The,
constantly get
the
asked.
process.
Answer's always
Correct.
no.
Yeah.
One day it might
Yeah.
change.
And also, correct. It's guilty as well because the founder, as a founder, we started from we do things. Or we love to do things. So that's every day that we do. So and the more we do, and the more we accumulate that. So it's hard to let go as well in a way. Yeah. But then
It,
we have to do
it's
that.
their
Yeah.
baby. They've grown it from day dot, right? So,
Yeah. So
and I think what a lot of founders aren't probably taking into consideration is that when someone is looking to buy a business,
mm,
the reason behind buying a business instead of starting a business is really significant in the fact that it really gives you a head start, right? You don't
mm-hmm.
have to,
That's right.
most businesses take at least 3 to 5 years before they hit the ground running and start making decent profit. That's if they last that long, so
Mm.
so many don't last any further than that. And
No, that's right. Yeah.
so buying one that's been around for 15 years, that takes all
Yeah.
that stress and risk out of starting one,
That
which is why they'll pay.
that Exactly, yeah. So therefore, from the seller perspective, when we present to the buyers, we have to present that side. So not saying that you're not buying your journey. So your last 15 years of hard work or no lack of sleep and things like that, that's already over. So what you want to show them is that I have come out from the tunnel, I have seen the lights, I have built everything's there. So you don't need to go there, start from here.
Yeah.
So the profit is clean, and I have a system, I have a team, I have supply contracts, and everything is there, the numbers, everything run through, and then you can start from here. And also, I guarantee you for the next 6 months, it's going to be easy, and the next 6 months you can grow, you can fly.
Yeah.
So that's what the seller wants to look for. That's what the buyers want to look for.
Yeah. It's part of the reason I bought mine, right? So, one business had been around for 21 years and the other one had been around for 11. Like, why would I start
Mm,
those if I could get them for what I did and bolt them into wherever I needed to? It just made
yeah,
so much more sense. Saved me a shit ton of time and learning because
yeah,
they'd already done all the
absolutely, yeah.
mistakes and they'd learnt from them and they knew
Mm,
which way not to go. So,
that's right, yeah. Mm.
you're paying
And,
to compress time.
yeah, you start from a different point, so it's just that totally different. So yeah, a simple thing I always remind myself as well when I start my first business, even the business card design is as simple as that. It take me weeks. I don't know because I mean maybe now AI and things are much easier now, but back then, not 20 years ago, it's different. So even there was a Vista print. I'm not
Yes.
sure if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the design, all these things, and came out that it doesn't look like what I want, and all these things. So let me back to this. I just say even as simple as business card, when you buy a business, you start from a different point. The whole supply chain is there. Everything you can look at the pattern, how much sales you're going to do, and how much stock you're going to keep, and what will be the the buying pattern for the customers. You already have that, so you start differently.
Yeah. He's a much better spot, I must say. So So to close us out, if you could leave business owners with one mindset shift around exits and value, what would it be? And what would you want founders to do earlier while they still have the energy and the choice?
Go back to the basics. So everything will start from the number. So clean the numbers. Again, just make sure that everything, the tax return, basis, do it right. Get a good accountant, bookkeeper, personal expenses, take them out from there. And if you do, make sure that you can clear that, clearly explain that easier. And then the founder reliant. So step back earlier.
Yes.
So remove yourself from the equations, build a system. So don't be a hero. Your team and the system are the hero. Again, team as well got to be also how you work it out. So remove the key dependency risk as well, the key person risk. So then the system is a key one. So those are the things. So you can build a business that it works without you, then you have plenty of options.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And
Yes.
so it sounds like best exits obviously are built slowly and not rushed.
Correct. Yeah. So no fire sales, build slowly. Yeah. And then your transition will be going to be smooth, including the due diligence. The price is going to be great. And also the transition is going to be smooth that you almost feel like nothing. So.
Oh, the dream. It sounds like the dream.
The dream. So, yeah.
So, Jack, this has been such a grounded and honest conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And what stands out for me is that exits aren't about timing the market, they're about designing businesses that don't rely on heroics, urgency, or burnout to function. So, for anyone listening, this episode isn't about selling your business tomorrow. It's about building something that gives you options and relief long before you need them. So, Jack, thank you for bringing such clarity to a topic so many founders avoid until it's too late.
Thank you, Kerrie. Thank you. I really enjoyed this podcast here, and thank you so much. And yeah, you have a wonderful weekend. Yes.
Thank you. So this is the Business Rebellion, and this is what it sounds like to do business differently.